It's on.
I do. Yeah, start. Okay, we're going to be going over Revelation chapter 18, verses 9 through 24. You'll notice on your packet there that we have notes for it. We're going to read the notes as they come in the lesson. And there's a song, It's a Slow Fade. And I thought we'll cover a little bit. That dovetails real good with our lesson today. Okay, the 7-year tribulation period is all about God's work of redemption through Israel. Jeremiah chapter 30 verse 7 says, "Alas, for that day is great, this day of God's judgment, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it." This is where we get some real pointed theological information that God says this is for Israel. Tribulation's for Israel. It's not that the Gentile world's not going to be affected, but it is primarily for Israel to come to repentance. And he says Israel will be saved out of it. So we find that God has a plan for those that are atheists in Israel. And there's a lot of them. God has a plan for their redemption. And that's what he's talking about in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. I'll ask you to see where it says CA for the notes. Wolvert, if you ever come across John Wolvert and some of his teachings, the guy's great, especially prophecy. Very, very good, and he's probably one of the few that I would endorse for you to really listen to his prophecy. He's very good. He's got lots of books out. Some of the things that we've talked about that are kind of exclusively divisive, the casting the crowns at Jesus' feet, that we're all going to cast the crowns, it ain't going to happen that way. And the fact that well, I don't want to get into the rest of it. Let me read what Wolvert says. In chapter 18, where we're at right now, Revelation chapter 18, the contrast seems to indicate that Babylon here is viewed with its political and economic character rather than its religious aspect. Where did we hear about Babylon's religious aspect? Chapter 17. Chapter 17. The whore rides the beast. That's the religious aspect of Babylon. It's called Mystery Babylon there, and we continue on with Babylon in chapter 18. Okay, reading on with what Mr. Wolvert says. The combined picture is one of complete abandonment to the wealth of this world and complete disregard of the God who gave it. He's very concise with his words and everything, and I think we're going to see pretty pointedly the stuff in Revelation chapter 18. So you're going to want to go there and just hold your finger there, because we're going to be camping out right there for a while. Starting with verse 9. I'll probably read, I think I'd like to read all the way through 9 to 24. And pay close attention. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, talking about Babylon, shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Now he's saying her and she and everything. The her and the she is Babylon. Okay, he's talking about Babylon. He's not talking about some woman. Okay. Verse 10. Standing afar off, for the fear of her torment, saying, "Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is her judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of, now we're going to have a list, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and fine wood and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood and brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and, that's ointments, and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts, that's talking about animals you can eat, chickens, that kind of stuff. Beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. That's interesting, slaves and souls of men. And the fruit of thy soul lusteth after are all departed from thee. So Babylon has been lusting after fruits and stuff. And all things which are dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed with fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold, precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company of ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her costliness, her preciousness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians and pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in her, and no craftsman, or whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall not be heard no more at all in thee, and the light of the candle shall shine no more in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more in thee at all, for thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and all that were slain upon the earth. Boy, this is quite a passage, isn't it? There's some things we can pull out from it. We could be here for probably 8 or 10 hours, but you might not want to stay long. So let's just cover verses 9 and 10. We look a little bit at your paper there, verse 9 and 10. It says, The kings of the earth who had committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Let's look at this on your paper there. Lamented over sin loss. Why does the human heart crave the excitement of sin? Why do the casino commercials use sex, excitement, laughter, beautiful environment, and money as their appeal? Why do the bars call it happy hour? Is there happy going on? There's no joy. Might be sin. No happy hour. Why are God's people living in Babylon? Verse 4. Take a look at verse 4. That was in last week's. Why are God's people living in this place? Go up to verse 4.
Would this be the Jews you're talking? God's people?
God's people. These are Jews that are believing in the Messiah. Those are Gentiles that believe that Jesus is the Messiah. These are saved, born-again people. God's people. He calls them his people. And I heard another voice that says in verse 4, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. back down to verse 19. Interesting. Or was it 9? No, verse 9, I'm sorry. Verse 9. It said, the kings of the earth who had committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. What were the kings of the earth looking for when they went to Babylon?
It was a trade thing. I mean,
Look,
to get
look in
well.
your verse. Look in your
To get
verse.
well.
What were the kings looking for in verse 9? What are they yelling about that they don't have anymore?
Well, this-
You don't have sin. Seasons of sin.
Fornication, isn't it? Fornication. Sex sin. Sex. Verse 10, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. What is it that the Christian people at that time will move into Babylon? Babylon and the big metropolis that it is, that has all of the wealth of the world flowing into it, that's known as the sex center of the world. Why do God's people go there? Why do Christian people go there? Would that happen today?
Yes.
We just read about these pastors, didn't we?
That's right.
Ah,
That's what's going
Why
on.
did Lot
yeah.
live in
Living, why do you go right down there? So, sex sells, and sex corrupts. Outside of marriage, that's what happens. That's what happens. I told Pastor had a message similar, and I told him to stole some of my stuff that I was going over. Genesis chapter 19, verses 24 through 26. Mrs. Lot must have lamented over sin, lost also. That's where you can find, remember Lot's wife? She turned and looked. And the point is, she didn't just give a passing glance, oh, it's burning. No, she looked with longing for Sodom. Can a Christian get to that point where we long for fornication? That's what these guys, according to verse 4, Babylon is going to be the fornicating center of the world. 2 times he mentions fornication, and that's sex sin. That's adultery, that's bestiality, that's homosexuality, that's lesbian, that's everything all rolled together is called fornication. Anything fornicating. So, let's look at B. What does our Pope tell us? I mean, come on, the Pope must be, he'll give us some help, won't he? I mean, he's dedicated to morality. The Pope, go to B on notes where it says, I got a B right there. This is where you turn to your page and look under B. This is under the Catholic Satellite magazine, that's why it says SAT. In September 13th of 2024, he just said this, not too long ago. Okay, Pope Francis, to the children of Singapore, and this is where there should be a quote marks right here, because he's talking to the children of Singapore. That doesn't mean the little kids, that means the people of Singapore. Okay, he says, put quotes there, all religions are paths to reach God. They are, to make a comparison, just like different languages, different dialects to get there. But God is God of everyone. If you start to fight saying, my religion is more important than yours, mine is true and yours isn't, where will this lead us? There is only one God, and each of us has a language to arrive to God. Some are Sikh, some are Muslim, some are Hindu, some are Christians. There are different ways to God.
No, it's false.
Wouldn't this be the kind of guy that you would think that would be the false prophet in the Revelation? He fits the bill so well. So well. So, anyways, all religions are okay, says. Now, I want you to go to your song. Take a look at the song. This was, I don't agree with their name, Casting Crowns. It made this song popular because we're not going to cast crowns, the 24 elders are. But he wrote this song, a very good Christian man. Actually, he's a youth pastor, and he wrote this song. You may have remembered this song. It was quite popular. This is, "Be careful, little eyes, what you see. It's the second glance that ties your hands as darkness pulls the strings. Be careful, little feet, where you go, for it's the little feet behind you that are sure to follow. It's a slow fade when you give yourself away." So, what he's saying is, a person just doesn't jump into adultery, jump into fornication, jump into sex sin. It's a slow fade. It's a slow fade. Let's go on. It's a slow fade when black and white have turned to gray and thoughts invade. Choices are made. A price will be paid when you give yourself away. People never crumble in a day. It's a slow fade. Be careful, little ears, what you hear when flattery leads to compromise. The end is always near. Be careful, little lips, what you say, for empty words and promises lead broken hearts astray. It's a slow fade when you give yourself away. What does the Bible say in Proverbs when the adulterous woman is talking to the young guy and her words seem like what? What is it? Remember? Oil. Slippery like oil. Her words are slippery like oil. Amazing. You know, Solomon knew exactly what he was talking about. Let's go to the next one. It's a slow fade. Oh, when black. Did I do the black and white turn here?
No.
No. It's a slow fade when black and white have turned to gray and thoughts invade, choices are made, a price will be paid. Then you give yourself away. People never crumble in a day. The journey from your mind to your hands is shorter than your thinking. Be careful if you think you stand. You just might be sinking. It's a slow fade, and you give yourself away. So, be careful when we stand. Think we're standing. Like he that thinketh he stand, take heed lest he fall. Because God is warning. Be careful. Be careful. Down at the bottom. Daddies never crumble in a day. It's a slow fade. Children never, or families never crumble in a day. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see, for the Father up above is looking down in love. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Have you ever heard of a Christian that doesn't watch himself and he ends up committing fornication, adultery, and whatnot, and destroys his life and the life of his family around him? Does anybody know anybody that isn't any? Does anybody here not know anybody like that? It's terrible, isn't it? The churches are dealing with it, and I think this song really gets the gist of it. Sharon?
I might add too, it's going the other way with women.
With women. Yep. I've always kind of thought it's a little bit prejudiced against guys every time, because it's always like, guys, you do this, guys, you're into porn, you're into this, and women have a problem going down this road too. I had a particular lady, I don't even get, I don't even know if I want. Anyways, this family, they had 10 kids. 10 kids? And the guy got into porn. She divorced him, and the family is just in shambles. Good Christian family. Just active in the church, very, by all outward appearances, you'd say. And it was a slow fade. She caught it, said, no, I don't want you to do that. Well, okay, I won't do it. And he did. And then she said, no. And of course, she may not have been able to stop it entirely, I don't know. But it's a slow fade. He gradually got to the point where he left a wife with 10 kids. 10 kids. Okay, let's look at verse 11. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys her merchandise anymore. And then he starts the whole list of merchandise. Now, as we look at your paper, the merchandise of the earth, are there any merchants not affected by Babylon's destruction? It looks like all merchants are, because it says no merchants are able to sell any of their stuff. So apparently, if you're making belt buckles for somebody, you ain't selling it anywhere except through this future Babylon. Now, I'm kind of trying to bring it up to speed with us right now, but this would be like if Amazon, Walmart, Target, and all the other online marketplaces combined and made an economic Babylon that will control all of them. It's kind of like that. Penny just ordered me a shirt because I told her this one, the neck isn't big enough and everything. So she ordered me a shirt. Where did she get it? Amazon. Get it, put it on, that's great. Sleeves come up to here. So they've got to send it back. They don't care. Put it in the bag, send it back, and give you your money and send you the right one. They probably charge so much money. But, who goes to the store and buys a shirt anymore? Nobody. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get to the point that Babylon, this major hub of, and it's interesting because he said the merchants can't sell their stuff anymore. Now, why, knowing from a prophecy we do know, which is, little bits and pieces, why would they not be able to sell it anymore except through this future Babylon? Okay, good. Yeah, they're on the mark. That's, take a look at your paper there. How is Babylon destroyed? There's going to be a payday someday. Now in Revelation 13, verses 16 through 17, it says, no one will be able to buy or sell except they have the mark. Now, we think about that. We think, well, why would that have anything to do with buying and selling? I don't understand that. What is the world today more concerned about if somebody buys and sells? Money. Right? The money. They want the tax dollars. They want that tax dollars. So when we have a one world government and they say, look, we got a lot of entitlement programs. We got to pay for all these things. And then we want the UN to have top-notch military. We got to pay for that stuff. So nobody buys or sells anything except they have the mark. And we can tax it. So Babylon, who is under the Antichrist's control, he's in charge of this Babylon, this 10-nation confederation, that is also telling the world to worship him. This particular Antichrist has to get a bunch of money too. Now, isn't it interesting when we read the passages, you remember some of the stuff that there, did you see anything that was like bags of potatoes or a used Ford van, something like that? No, these are all high-end stuff. Gold, silver, pearls. Babylon is going to be the primo place. It's got all the money in the world. It's going to be, and it's also the porn capital of the world. And the capital of fornication that the world guys enjoy. Why does the devil always pick on sex? Go ahead, B.
It's hard to beat.
It takes desires.
He turns our desires into downward, yeah. He knows a weakness, doesn't he?
That was one of the most precious things that God gave humanity, a husband and a wife. And Satan has taken that and ruined it.
And ruined it, and
And
made it,
ruined it.
and made it
Mhm.
filthy.
Made it wrong,
Filthy.
evil.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's amazing because Tel Aviv, Israel, Tel Aviv, is the capital of the Middle East for homosexual and lesbian and transgenders and everything. It is the capital of the Middle East. They have a festival, a pride festival over there every year. And they're less than 100 miles away from Sodom and Gomorrah. If you could drive to Sodom and see that and say, I don't know if I want to hang around with Billy Bob anymore. Look what happened over there. These are people that are living next door to it and they still do it. Like, what is going on? I divest a little bit from the message here. So, okay, what time is that? Okay, let's look at number 2 under how is Babylon destroyed. It's interesting because in Ezekiel 26 and 27, you remember about hearing of the city of Tyre. Tyre and Sidon. In Tyre was a let's see, how do I say this? Let me put it this way. The Antichrist is supposed to come, declare himself to be God, sit at the temple, and offer a sacrifice, and he's going to declare himself to be God. Antiochus Epiphanes in the 1st century came as a prototype of the Antichrist. He was a Jewish guy that came in and said he was going to be God. He defamed the temple. He offered the blood of a pig on the altar. Antiochus Epiphanes. He wasn't the fulfillment of the Antichrist, but he was kind of a prelude to the Antichrist. Hitler was kind of a prelude to the Antichrist. He came along and said, I got the final solution. What we need to do is eliminate all Jews. We're going to get rid of all Jews. By the way, he was following a lot of what Martin Luther said. Get rid of all the Jews. The guy that wrote A Mighty Fortress is Our God. The same guy that said the Jewish people are disdained by God. He's rejected them, and we need to get rid of them. They need to be eliminated. So Hitler picked up on it with the rest of the Germans and said, I'm just saying what what our pastor said. We need to get rid of the Jews. So Hitler is a prototype of the coming Antichrist. He was a great speaker, great orator. He moved people to action and everything. Same thing as what the Antichrist is going to be. Now, Babylon has a prototype in the Old Testament. Not a fulfillment, but a type. And that's the city of Tyre. Tyre. You don't hear much about Tyre, except Tyre was very happy when Israel had been conquered by the Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians. They were happy about that. In fact, they went in and they looted a lot of what was left. And God says, I got a score to settle with you, Tyre. And you can read that in Ezekiel chapter 26 and 27. So if you go to Ezekiel chapter 26, I want to read the first 14 verses, and you can kind of get kind of a similar thing to what's going on over here in Babylon. The sailors and everything. By the way, Tyre was world renowned. It was the center of shipping, of ships. And they were filthy rich, and they were given over to fornication. They had a lot of the same things that were happening in Tyre were the same things we're going to see in Babylon, and it's like God gave us an example. In the Old Testament, we can look at and we can say, some of this stuff kind of dovetails real closely with what we see in Revelation chapter 18 with Babylon, economic Babylon. Let's go to...
Where was Tyre located?
It's on the Mediterranean coast, just north of Israel. It would be up similar to where Beirut is now. Ezekiel chapter 26. And it's interesting because Tyre was destroyed in a day. A day. know how they were just, God said, I'll destroy you in a day. Alexander the Great came along and people said, we don't have to worry about him. We got these wonderful ships. We can defend ourselves with, and he don't have any ships. Alexander don't have any ships. We'll leave our city over there. We'll build a city out here on the island. So they did. Indefensible. Nobody can get over there. Nobody's got ships. Alexander says, I can take care of that. He took the old city brick by brick and threw it in the ocean until he built a causeway all the way out to the island, and they marched right up to the city and they took it in a day. A day. His army could handle it, but he had no navy. So it was similar to what we might see dying in a day. Babylon's going to die in a day. Remember that? Okay, let's go. Let's read Tyre. First 14 verses. And it came to pass in the 11th year, on the first year of the month, or the first day of the month, that the word of the Lord came unto me, saying. So Ezekiel's getting this prophecy on the first day of the 11th year. Okay? Son of man, because that Tyrus, that is an old translation for the word Tyre, the city of Tyre, Tyrus. Son of man, because of that, Tyrus hath said against Jerusalem, aha, she is broken. That was the gates of the people. She is turned unto me. I shall be replenished. Now she is laid waste. I'm going to go get my stuff. I'm going to go steal everything that's left. And they did. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, O Tyrus, and will cause many nations to come up against thee, as the sea causes his waves to come up. Alexander the Great brought many different groups of people with him when they did this. And they shall destroy the walls of Tyrus and break down her towers, and I will also scrape her dust from her and make her like the top of a rock. When Alexander took the city, there was nothing left except flat ground. You get down to the foundation, all the walls and everything was thrown in the river, or thrown into the ocean with no causeway. They scraped it right down to nothing. Verse 5, and it shall be a place for the spreading of nets in the midst of the sea, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord God, and it shall become a spoil to the nations, and her daughters which are in the field shall be slain by the sword, and they shall know that I am the Lord. For thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will bring upon Tyrus, that's Tyre, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, a king of kings from the north, with horses and chariots and horsemen and company and much people. And they shall slay with a sword thy daughters in the field, and he shall make a fort against thee, and cast a moat against thee, and lift up a buckler against thee, and he shall set engines of war against thy walls. That's the catapults. Throwing them engines of war, engine of war. And with his axes he shall break down thy towers. By reason of the abundance of his horses shall dust cover thee. Thy walls shall shake at the noise of the horsemen of the wheels and the chariots when he shall enter into the gate. As men enter into the city where it is made a breach, it's made a break. With the hooves of the horses shall he tread down all thy streets, and he shall slay thy people with a sword, and thy strong garrisons shall go down to the ground. And they shall make a spoil of thy riches, and make a prey of thy merchandise, and they shall break down thy walls, and destroy thy pleasant houses. And they shall lay thy stones and thy timber and thy dust in the midst of the water. Oh. Now he's gone forward from Nebuchadnezzar to Alexander the Great. He's going to throw it in the water. And I will cause the noise of thy songs to cease, and the sound of the harper shall be heard no more. And I will make thee like the top of a rock. Thou shalt be a place to spread nets upon. Thou shalt be built no more, for I, the Lord, have spoken, and says the Lord God. Tyre has no future. God's going to scrape them clean, and today you can go the old city of Tyre, what's there, and all it is flat plain of I don't want to say cement, they used to use rocks and stuff, of where the footings used to be for the buildings. There's nothing there. And it'll never be rebuilt. Kind of similar to what we see with Babylon, isn't it? Let's go back to Revelation 18. It's kind of, we're looking at a prototype for what's happening in Revelation 18 to Babylon. Tyre fulfills a lot of them things. The fact that it's not going to be found anymore, It says, as we look down through here, we see fire and we see water as judgments for it. And I think I may have a solution to that. How do you get fire and water and destroy the city? I think you probably will disagree with me, but we're going to try it. Take a look at number 3. It says 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 3. It says, through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you. What is covetousness?
Come with what somebody else has.
Want something that somebody else has. So this, you hear these guys, you know, and I don't mean to throw too many stones out at them because they think they're doing well, but these preppers, a lot of times the preppers, they say, well, I'm making stuff so that when the tribulation comes, those Christians at that time, they'll have something to eat. I'm making it for them. But this tells me that those people that live at that time, they will be covetous. Covetousness. They will go out and look for anybody that has anything because they want what you got. So it's going to be kind of hard to hang on to that mason jar of pickles when the guys down the road want it. I understand where they're coming from, but I don't think it's going to happen the way it is. Whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. In other words, the answer is Jesus. He's coming, he's going. Their damnation is slumbering not. Any questions as we've gone along here? I know whenever you start talking about fornication and adultery and all that kind of stuff, people don't want to make a statement or say something. Our pastor just gave quite a lesson on that today, and we all studiously, quietly listened. Okay, let's leave.
Everybody's over 50.
Yeah. Well,
It was a good message.
verses 12 and 13. And don't look at what I put down there for the solution on what time is. Don't look at that. I want you to just kind of guess. Gary, what's time? Did you read it? Did you? No, what's Thine? T-H-Y-M-I-N. Thymin. Thymin. What is it?
I mean, that wood,
Did you read it? Yeah. I thought, what is Thymin? It's a high-end wood. Yeah, had you ever heard of it before?
no, most time you hear the wolves.
It's a fruit tree. It's a fruit tree wood. So, think of it as this. Babylon is going to be so filthy rich at that time. They're going to cut down, I know Thymin is a particular kind of tree, the fruit tree. Let's just say orange tree. They're going to cut down the orange tree so they can make stools and benches out of the wood for the people that are there. And you can go starve to death. They're going to cut down the fruit trees in order to make stuff to sit on and to eat at. Are these people, these they're really something. These rich people at that time. Okay? Let's read, I put down verse 13, 12 and 13, Thymin. So let's read. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stone, of pearls, fine linen, not my kind of clothes, fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and all Thymin wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of precious wood, and brass, and iron, and marble. One thing we can find out very clearly about Babylon is that they're filthy rich. They are filthy rich. You know, I seen some of Mar-a-Lago down there in the pictures that they went through, and that looks pretty ornate. Probably a billionaire lives there. You know, but at this time, the wealth of the world is at the hands of those that live in Babylon. So why do the believers at that time go to Babylon? do the believers nowadays go and play the lottery?
Would they be
With
forced?
lots of money.
Would they be forced though? Because that
He
would
tells
be.
them in verse 4 to come out from it. So they're not there because they're forced. They have a
How
choice.
could they trade or anything if they don't have the mark of the beast?
Yep, yep. So to them, temporal blessings are more important than God's blessings. So we can learn quite a bit from that, can't we? That the stuff of this world is not as important as following God. And the stuff of the world is the best of the best. The linens and the marble and the gold and the silver and the ivory, the best of the best. Of course I want to go to Babylon. You think if we had a Babylon in Washington, D.C. that was filthy rich and they were building this thing and they said, we need some guys over here to help us. It's the porno center of the world. How many Christians you think would go over there? You know, as just a day laborer maybe, or a painter, a wallpaper, and they got the money.
Because
Gary?
everybody is centered on themselves and what they want.
Yep. And we can really learn from that today, here, now, in this generation, can't we? Yeah.
So
Gary?
it gives me that even though you're supposed to hit that mark, I thought it's going to be slick dudes who today you hear, hey, buy some silver and gold. You got silver and gold. They're rich dudes. They'll find a way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They'll bring you into town and get your silver. and
Yeah.
gold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, there wouldn't be any Christians involved in that, would
Yes,
it?
there are.
Why do we see Israel is on their back trying to fight for their survival? And what's his name? The Secretary of State, Blinken. Blinken, a Jewish guy, is out there trying to tell Israel give up land for peace.
And the stupid,
What?
and the stupid Jews are voting.
Yeah. Well, why in the world? Whose side is he at? Doesn't he realize he'd be the first one in line over at Auschwitz to go to the chamber? Doesn't he realize that? You know, don't the Christians realize? Hey, I remember Sodom and down there with Lot, and boy, he lost everything. I don't think I should probably go to Babylon. I'm not going to take the mark, because I know mark of the beast, I'm going to go to hell. But I do want the money, and I do want the linen, the gold, the silver, and the ivory, and everything like that. And I want to have a nice house, and the only way to get it is go to Babylon. Join up with Babylon.
But he's one of these rich Jews, he's used to having everything.
Yep. Okay, we're just about down to C and D. I want you to look at this. Expensive high-end items. And then it says at the bottom of verse 13, the slaves and souls of men. How does Babylon get slaves and souls of men? You ever heard of sex trafficking?
They like the power, so they do anything to get it, so that.
How do they get the souls of these girls
That's
and
right.
young boys?
Well, they have the Illuminati now that you have to sign the paper that signs over your soul to them.
Yeah. You know, if Jesus wasn't still sitting on the throne, I guess I could get kind of depressed. I could get kind of depressed. Except there was a God in heaven that had a guy make some pagers, and they blew all up all at the same time, and a whole bunch of people, got mutilated and died and everything. There's a God in heaven that's taking care of a people over there that he said nobody's going to get them out of their land. He says, I'll do it. I have the same God. He gave me 109 porta potties. Should we be discouraged? I mean, yeah, all this stuff is happening, but God's got the trump card. And I don't mean Trump. I mean I know, trump card.
Yeah, but if you don't keep focus on that,
Yes,
and on the Lord,
Yes.
and what he's capable of.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that we are his children,
Yep.
yeah, we
Yep.
can be depressed.
yep. We could very easily get depressed. Man, you just turn on the, when you get home, turn on the TV, and I'll guarantee you, within 15 minutes, you will have enough stuff to get you depressed for the whole rest of the day. Oh. What's her name? Ribbit? That woman that's running for, stands up there and bold face, I am standing for your right to have an abortion. We need to have abortion. For what about rape and incest? We need to have, you know, it's just, wait a minute. Kristen something, Ribbit, Kristen McDowell Ribbit.
Yeah.
Rape and incest. Huh. So we're going to kill the innocent and we're going to let the guilty go.
Yeah.
Where is the rapist and the incester? Take them to the execution chamber and let the kid live. Why do we kill the innocent? We should be killing those that are guilty. That person over there did it. They're guilty. And, you know, but we are so twisted. We listen to that stuff on TV and we think, oh, yeah, but Charlie Kirk was interviewing some college students, and you know, if you ever get a college students and they're talking, some of them girls are brain dead. And they said, well, you know, the child's not viable. He says, okay, so what would you say is a date that it would be okay to abort before, but not after? He said, 20 weeks, then a child is viable. He says, okay. So before that time, then that's not a child. Oh, no, it's just a bunch of cells. It's cells, okay? And even though it has a heartbeat, even though they have pictures of the needle going in, putting the saline solution into the embryonic fluid, and the child grabbing that needle and gripping it hardly as they're injecting the saline solution in there at 6 weeks. But that's okay. Kristen McDowell Ribbit gets on there and publicly displays before the world, I am in total favor of this. Why in the world would anybody want to advocate that publicly? That would be something that, hey, man, if you're going to do it, you shouldn't want to be proud of it. Proud of the fact that I think it's okay to kill a kid? Oh, my goodness gracious. I'm divesting from the message. So, but anyways, I'm just giving some of my, letting some steam off. I've got some steam.
Venting.
I'm venting. Okay, so what is the sex and porn capital of our world today? If we had to say, okay, Babylon is going to be the sex porn capital of our world today, it's going to be then there, and where would that be located in the world?
India.
New York.
What'd you say?
In India.
India? And what did you say, Gary?
No, San Francisco.
San Francisco?
New York.
It's all over. There's
It's all over.
Yeah, how do you pick a place?
Let's go to C and D. C and D. Pornographic films in the United States, often referring to as porn movies or adult films, are typically produced in various locations throughout the country, including California, which is historically the San Fernando Valley area of Los Angeles, California, has been a major hub in the adult entertainment industry. The area is home to numerous production studios, talent agencies, talent. You got a talent for that? Talent. Just to take your clothes off. And related businesses. However, the industry has faced various challenges and changes over the years, including the migration of some production to other regions due to regulatory and legal issues. Let's go down to D. Sex trafficking is human trafficking for the purpose of sexual exploitation. It has been called a form of modern slavery. because of the way victims are forced into sexual acts non-consensually in a form of sexual slavery. Wikipedia says that. Isn't that exactly what we just got done talking about? Slavery. What is the capital right now? And there's bad places. Indians, bad. Bombay,
Where's the Olympics?
Tel Aviv. But the granddaddy of them all is the San Fernando Valley, California. They make more money, and if, I know it may not be the Babylon of the future, but what if? What if this is the Babylon of the future? We find out that God destroys her in a day. Have you ever heard of the San Andreas Fault? Oh.
Surrounded by torture.
Susie says, no, it's not San Francisco. I'm just saying it could be a prototype, a type. Maybe.
They're gonna be long gone before that.
Oh, the San Andreas Falls gonna, okay, well, you have the right to remain wrong. Let's go to verse 13. And this is interesting. Cinnamon odors, ointments, frankincense, wine, oil, fine flour, wheat, bread, beast, sheep, horses. By the way, you know what county has one of the most horses? California. And chariots and slaves and souls of men and women. Souls, so they must be sex slaves maybe. And then he says, verse 14, look at this. And the fruits that thy soul lusteth after are departed from thee. It must be a fruit center of the world. Grow a lot of fruit. Is the San Fernando Valley known for anything over there? Can you think of any? Peaches, nectarines, limes, oranges, yeah. I'm not saying Babylon is that, but it sure fits the bill so far. As far as fruits and stuff are quite close. And all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. There's not going to be any virtues left. I'm going down with a hypothesis. I know that Babylon is probably someplace else. But it sure fits the bill. San Francisco. Last week I thought it was Seattle, yeah. The more I study, I think San Francisco fits it.
So is New York.
So does New York.
Hudson Valley.
But they don't have as many fruits. When I got to the fruit thing, I thought, well, it can't be New York.
Wait a minute. New York, Hudson Valley, apples, Upper New York.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, this is the city. Okay. So, ripe fruit of trees is what this is referring to, and that ripe fruit on the trees. A seaport surrounded by orchards. Verse 18, it says something interesting that, let's read verse 17. In 1 hour, so great riches are come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company of ships and sailors, as many as trade by the sea, stood afar off. Somehow, it's a seaport, a major seaport. 18, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? So she burns. What I'm trying to do is, how's God going to figure this out? How's God going to do this? You know, I'm not saying I got it absolutely right, but one of the ways he could do it is the San Andreas Fault opens up and we see all kinds of volcanic action up and down through there, and he burns it up. He burns it up with burning. This city is known for its orchards and its vineyards and its fruits, and they're all gone, and the city's completely burned up. That kind of sounds a little bit like Pompeii. Remember reading about Pompeii? Mount Vesuvius? What happened in Pompeii? It fried. You know what the Romans were, what they used as after Pompeii? You know what they used as an excuse of why Pompeii burnt? They've gone and they've excavated down in Pompeii in some of the bathhouses. There would be great big rooms, and all the pornographic stuff that was all over the walls of every conceivable thing a person could do with another person is on the walls of the bathhouses in Pompeii. And the Romans believed that this was their Sodom. God destroyed Pompeii to make an example to the Gentiles for what he did back there in Sodom when he gave an example to the Jews. That's what the Romans believed at that time. That was horrendous. Remember seeing the pictures of the people that had the hot ash on, and they're kind of frozen in a position? Remember seeing that? Like dogs and stuff like that. They died and they were kind of frozen in that position. Anybody remember seeing it? No? You don't ever seen that pictures?
Yes.
Phil, you ever seen it? Carrie, you've seen it, haven't you? On the internet, yeah. Yeah. They have a person laying there and they're kind of like that.
Baby.
Yeah, and it's all this hot ash is landing on them and cooling, and it makes an image of them. Their body is destroyed and gone and everything, but it looks like a mummy, but it's ash that has cooled and hardened, and it's made. Karen, are you and me the only two that seen this?
No, Sue said she's seen it too.
Oh, okay. Did you ever see it, Vicki? Ever seen pictures?
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's that kind of thing. I think when he says he destroys this city, Babylon, in a day, I wonder, is God going to do a Pompeii, Sodom kind of a thing again? And what do we hear about California breaking off into the sea, and the St. Andreas Fault is very active, and they're having lots of earthquakes over there, and if they have a big earthquake and a big crack comes and it starts to go to the sea, what would happen? All of that molten ash would come up from down below and would incinerate that whole area. Wouldn't have any more orchards, and the city would burn before it sinks into the ocean. Let's read on. Because it burns and it goes into the ocean. How is this possible unless this is the kind of a thing? Let's read verse 19 or 20. Let's read 19 and 20. And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. In other words, her preciousness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. God's got a timeline. You got 30 minutes, God, to get rid of this city. Can God do it in 30 minutes? Can God do it in 30 minutes? He has and I don't know if this is a future city that is going to be rebuilt at this Babylon. If there's but apparently it has lots of coastlines, and the people that are in the ships and stuff, they're the ones that are depressed because they've lost their ability to sell all their merchandise. So Tom, my next door neighbor that makes these belt buckles, he can't sell them any place except through a Babylonian or a Babylon guy that sells belt buckles. Does that make sense? Kind of Amazon kind of a thing where they sell what other people make, kind of a thing. Except this gets even bigger, doesn't it? So it's interesting. Am I leaving anybody behind? Any question you want to know? I'm going on here. Thoughts?
Let me tell the topic
Pardon me?
Big Bang.
A big bang. Let's read verse 20. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. This is where I'm going to tell you, if you have a New International Version, if you have an ESV version, if you have a New American Standard Version, if you have one of the other versions other than the King James and the New King James and the Young's Literal, if you have one of them, it does not say that in verse 20. It says, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets and saints. For God has avenged you on her. Anybody see that? It'll say that. The word saints is interjected in there. Huh. Okay, well, it's probably not a big deal, right? The King James. Let's go back to what's the difference between the King James and the rest of them. Okay. The King James was first translated not by King James, but William Tyndale. William Tyndale put together a translation of the English Bible, and that's what King James used as his springboard into making the King James Bible of what we have today. Now, William Tyndale got his translations and everything from a guy by the name of Erasmus, who was a Catholic monk, but he was a born-again monk. And he said people need to have God's word. So he went throughout Russia, Germany, Spain, Portugal, England, France, and got what they called at that time the Byzantine translation of the Bible. The Byzantine. Now, up here in France, they had Luke, they had Jude, they had part of Revelation and all of Mark. And over in England, they had John and Timothy and a few other books. And he put them all together. Erasmus said, okay, I got all these books, and now I want to figure out what is of God. And then somebody came over and he said, you know, the Vatican has a translation called the Vaticanus. And Erasmus, the monk, Erasmus, said it's corrupt. It's corrupt. There's stuff that's in there that's not right. It's not from God. And they said, well, wait a minute, Erasmus, you're looking for translations of the Bible. There's another place. Alexandria, Egypt, has the Alexandrian text. And this Alexandrian text, here you go, look at this. And he says, no, this is corrupt. This does not match with all the rest of this stuff. It's different than a Vaticanus, and it's different than anything else. He says, it's corrupt. I reject it. I'm not going to use it. And then they said, well, there's the Sinaiticus. Sound like Sinai? It's because there was a monastery down at Mount Sinai where they found this old scroll, and they called it the Sinaiticus scroll of the Bible. And they said, here, Erasmus, we've got something to give you here. He says, no, this is corrupt too. Now, Erasmus, why were these corrupt? Because the Sinaiticus, the Alexandrian, the Vaticanus, none of them agreed with each other. But all of the Byzantine translations all agreed with each other. They all used the same language. They all used the same stuff. So he says, that is what I believe is not corrupt. So William Tyndale came along and he said, I'm going to do that same thing. That Sinaiticus, that Vaticanus, and that Alexandrian text, I reject them, and I'm just going to stick with the Byzantine translations and what Erasmus had worked on, and I'm going to make the Tyndale translation. And you can get the Tyndale translation. It's kind of like the King James, but it's not quite as easily read. And then King James came along and said, okay, we're going to get the best experts in the world, and we want them to make a translation. Now, I'm going to put a plug in here for what King James did. He was no slouch. He knew both Greek and Hebrew. He could speak both. He was no idiot. He had 23 people in 3 different places that took different parts of the Bible, and their job was to translate the Bible. Okay, so you get, say your job is John 3:16, for God so loved the world he gave his only begotten Son. So you write that down. I think this is what this means. King James. King James didn't leave it there. He made a copy of that. And he sent it out to every pastor of every church in England and said, is this right? Is this the best way to say it? Really? Then they sent all that information back. And he said, okay, let's go through all of it. See, that's why it took him so long to do it. But it was guaranteed that the Bible of all of Europe and of Asia and all the way down to North Africa, all of the Bibles of that time were going to be used for the Byzantine translation. When you read here in Revelation chapter 20 or 18, right here, when that word is interjected where it says saints and ye holy apostles and prophets and saints, some of the Bibles will say. Why is that put there? It shouldn't be, and I can prove it. Let's go to Revelation, or
Jeremiah.
pardon me?
Jeremiah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh, it's Jeremiah. Yeah, it's under verse 20. Why only apostles and prophets are mentioned and not saints in the King James? In the received text, sometimes called the received text, sometimes called the majority text. Why is the King James a better text? And this is a very minor point, but it is a strong point, because the Bible says that no jot or tittle would ever, stop from the Word of God. And what did we read in Revelation chapter 1? Revelation chapter 22, I think it is 21 or 22. If you add or subtract anything from the words of this book, God will add or subtract you will get the plagues of this book. And this is right in the same book that they did it. They added this word, saints. Okay, Clyde. So it says apostles, it says prophets, and the Byzantine, which is the European and all the way into Russia, China, all of them used the Byzantine translation. All of them. And they didn't have the word saints. Why would you say that we shouldn't have the word saints? Look at Jeremiah. I wrote it down, or I printed it out for you. It says in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 28, the voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of God, or of the Lord our God. The vengeance of his temple. Who would be interested in the vengeance of the temple? The apostles and the prophets. Not the general public. He's bringing out the fact that, hey, let me put it in the common colloquial of today. The pastors, the deacons, and the elders, if you have in your church, they are a group that God is saying, I've got something special for you. I've got something special here. And then those of us that are just average believers, I don't want to say average believers in the church, it doesn't sound really, we're not called to leadership in the church. There seems to be, because of the temple. The Jewish people, remember at this time, who's he working through? It's not the Gentiles. Who's he working through? He's working through the Jews, right? So when he says, hey, the apostles and the prophets, he's centering on those that are in the leadership of Israel. And they are the ones that are the first front line of defense for the temple. And Jeremiah brings that right out. Now, if I don't believe that, and I think, oh, the Sinaiticus, I don't know which one had it, because they're all different. Sinaiticus, Vaticanus, and Alexandrian are all different. They don't even agree with each other. But let's just say the Sinaiticus is the one that had interjected here, saints. if that would be the case, and saints is there, then the Jews at that time are going to be more concerned about the temple than anything else. The average Joe Jew walking around is going to be more concerned about the temple. You say, well, they seem to be kind of concerned about it. It's the apostles and prophets that are really, who runs the temple faithful? They are all prophets. Yeah, they're all of the tribe of Aaron. Yeah, they say, hey, this is, so it makes a difference. And you say, well, it's not really a big difference, but it does make a difference. Because whoever wrote that in that book and gave it to you and said saints is found here, they added to themselves some of the plagues of the book. So be careful when we're reading. This is just one little minor part, so I just wanted to bring that out. Because, you know, we kind of got this bad stigma. If you're a KJV only, you're one of the ones that the girls wear the long skirts and the guys have the real short hair and the suit coats and ties. And do I have to go down the line? You know, King James only, KJV only people, they're kind of nutcases. And the King James is inspired King James they'll talk about. It's not inspired. The Greek was inspired. The King James is a translation of Greek. And it's one of the best. Now, I'm going to put a plug in for probably one that's even better than the King James. Are you ready? You're not going to be able to read it. But it's called Young's Literal Translation. YLT, Young's Literal Translation. Now, I'll give you an example of it. King James will say, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. The Young's Literal will say, everlasting life to those that call on Christ will have, you know, it's not readable. It's like bits and pieces are moved around. See, English, we have it da 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 da. They didn't like that in the Greek. They would say, you know, for God so loved the world that he gave. They would say, given the world by God, so he. You wouldn't be able to read it and understand it. But if you know Greek, you can put it together and you can say, you know, this is what it means. That's what King James and then we're doing. So if you want to go to a complicated thing, you can go to Young's Literal Translation, and it will give you the Byzantine Bible at exactly the same way that it's put forth in the Greek. And I guarantee you, you're going to be going, what? They got the verb before the noun. They got, you know, everything is kind of mixed up and everything, where King James made it, you know, so we can understand. So that's the difference between them. It's readable, put it that way. Now, they have the King James, they have the New King James, they have the King James 20, which came out in 2020. I didn't realize that. Which is called the New King James. And then, you know, was another guy that did a great job at the translation of the Bible? Noah Webster. Get Webster's Bible and look at it. It's almost exact. He kind of tries to make it a little bit more readable, but it's, when you go to John 3:16, it's exactly the same. Ephesians 2:8-9, it's exactly the same. You know, Titus 3:5, it's exactly the same. You know, but Noah Webster, in certain places, he put capitals, some places he put commas, some places he made minor changes. Noah Webster, you know, remember what Webster gave us? A dictionary. Yeah, English people. Okay. Verse 21 and 22 are interesting. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more. Now, he says, he throws a millstone in the sea, and that's like what Babylon is going, it's not going to be seen anymore. Wait a minute, I thought you were going to burn it. But now we're talking about a millstone being thrown into the sea. Sounds kind of like St. Andreas falling off into the sea. Maybe, Rachel, I think it might. Now, where do we hear this thing about Babylon? Let's go to E on your list there, because this is interesting. And I'm just giving it out to you. Okay. Jeremiah's instruction to Syria, that was his scribe, is to bind a stone to the text of Jeremiah and cast it into the Euphrates. Thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. It's interesting. Jeremiah is tells his scribe to bind a stone onto his thing and throw it into the water, and it'll sink. Okay. Kind of similar to, they're getting thrown into the water. Let's go to, this reminds us of what Jesus said in Matthew 18:6. But whosoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better. And are they causing anybody to sin in Babylon?
And they sing these fellows good luck.
Yeah. His little ones go up there? Yeah. It would be better for him if a millstone be hung about his neck and he be drowned in the depths of the sea. This applies to Babylon in Revelation 18, because she led others into sin. It is a terrible thing for sin unto yourself. It is even more terrible to lead others into sin. It's interesting that millstone around the neck being thrown into the sea, and Jeremiah tying a millstone to his prophecy and telling the guy, throw it in the Euphrates River. And now we find in Revelation, there's a mighty angel that comes and drops a millstone into the water. And it says they will sink, and they'll be gone. There's some real parallels there. Real parallels that I think when we see Babylon, Babylon's going to sink like a millstone in the water. Okay, let's go to Revelation chapter 12. This is at the bottom of your notes. This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 19. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, vengeance are mine, I will repay, says the Lord. What seaport city might be the city that sinks and burns? Gary?
There was a saying in the Canarian Islands, if a volcano hit the roof, it was sent away 30 foot high across the way of Miami, New York, whole eastern coast.
God wouldn't do that, would he? Is there enough evil in San Francisco and in California? How much corn does it take? Didn't take forever for Pompeii. And tens of thousands died in Pompeii. And who knows how many died in Sodom. God made an exception. Okay, let's go to verse 23 and 24. And the light of the candle shall shine no more in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. Now he's talking about Babylon, remember. For thy merchants were the great men of earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Sorceries in the Greek means to prepare drugs, pharmakeia. So this is also a drug-using center of the world. I know it's just my example, but don't you think California kind of fits that bill? Los Angeles, San Francisco, don't you think?
Just back on the Bible part, owned King James, now it's owned by the Crown, which is England. The word Crown owns the rights to the King James Version Bible, which kind of fits in the end time because they can change whatever they want in it then.
That would be, if the Crown owns it, that's the Church of England, Anglican Church, Anglican Church. Even though the Anglican Church was very active in, you know, yeah, as you read in the translations, it's so bizarre. At the very beginning, we had the Revised Standard Version. Remember that one? And then they came out with the English Standard, or not the English Standard, that didn't come out next. The next one was the American Standard Version, ASV. And then they came out with the Revised Standard, or the ESV, English Standard Version, the ESV. And then they came out with the
No, they had a Living Bible before that.
NASV, New American Standard Bible. And now, they've kind of run out of words. So, the New American Standard 95 is newer than the other one. And now, here a couple of years ago, they came out with the New American Standard 20. So, you've got New American Standard 20, the New American Standard 25, you got the New American Standard, you got the Revised Standard, you got the English Standard Version. You've got all of an amazing thing about it is, and then you got what the Baptists came out with, this CSB, the Christian Standard Bible. And then you got all the what Susie was talking about, the Living Bible, which is a paraphrase, they call it a paraphrase. But you got the Phillips translation, and you got the, oh goodness, there's all different kinds of what's the Jerusalem Bible? You got all of these different Bibles, and you think, is it a wonder that Christians are confused? Is it not a wonder that Christians are confused? And you know, whenever I have a church and I say, okay, this is the Bible we're going to use, 5 years from then, they come out with a revised. Oh, we got to buy all new Bibles. Guess who's making the money? The publishing company. Yeah.
Those are printed
Yep.
in China.
Yep. And you know, can I be real? You still got the video on, Margie? Is the video still on? Oh, sorry. Just for posterity's sake. Okay, take a look at verse 24. And in her was found the blood of prophets, and look what, I'll leave it just for a minute. It says the blood of prophets and saints and all that were slain upon the earth. He puts saints in here. Now he's talking about believers that are going to be killed, and the record of their killing goes to Babylon. Babylon is the great slaughterer of the believers at that time. What does he say? In her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. All. Wow. Aren't you glad we don't live in this Babylon time now? Aren't you glad when we get to go home, we can have some nice things, we can go to nice places, everything. It's going to be bad for them then. But that's our lesson for today. That's our lesson for today. I hope you got something out of it. I hope it